Sci-Fis and the Batman fans. This is Drew from Horror, Sci-Fi, and Beyond. We got a new guest with us today. We got Mr. Benny Fuller. Benny is a pretty cool guy. He's been pretty active on the Facebook page for a while. He won a couple of my giveaways. You won the 2001 Space Odyssey 4K, which is really cool. Won the Michael Keaton Batman Funko Pop, which was actually, I got that as a duplicate. But if you haven't told by the title of my video or my shirt, we're doing the Batman spoiler. So like I said, it's gonna be full spoilers. Yeah, so just letting you know, it's been out for a week, but just letting you know, it's gonna be full spoilers. So off the top, what's your relationship with Batman?
I think like many kids in the late 80s and early 90s, I had a lot of exposure to the Michael Keaton first Batman movie. Had it on VHS. Obviously, we watched the noir animated take on Batman that was around during that era. So a lot of that, I had some of the toys. I think I was, Batman for Halloween one year. I wish I knew where a picture was of it, but it's me dressed as Batman, my brother crying because he's Robin. So I've seen all of the major Batman movies. I think, unless you count Justice League, which I still haven't watched. Although I did. Huh?
Check out the Snyder Cut on HBO. It's really good.
Yeah, they're both on there, and it's on my to-do list. But and I think we'll probably get into this a little bit later. Kind of like the Batman. They are long movies, and as I've told you, I have ADHD, so it usually takes me about 3 or 4 times a movie's runtime to finish it. So that's that's a significant time commitment on my part because I'll get distracted. So that's then I guess I'll just take a quick moment to just say that I'm also here repping a little bit the Mandalorian Covert and the Outer Rim Outpost, which are other groups on Facebook. So yeah, I think we're doing a bit of cross promotion here. So I've got my Iron Mando shirt on.
Yep, got my Batman.
He's got the Batman, so we're repping our respective groups.
So
I'm really happy to be here.
Robert Pattinson Funko Pop.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've got mine. He's sitting over there next to Deadpool.
I got a first appearance Batman, Keaton Batman, as you know, and then I got a Ben Affleck one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I also got the Phantasm too, from Mask of the Phantasm, which is my second favorite Batman movie.
Yeah, and that was one thing. So before I went and saw the Batman, I took the opportunity to watch the '89 version, and then Batman Begins
on your Facebook page.
Yeah, so it was. I think it was good to kind of get those different perspectives to see, those 3 different takes on the Batman character, on Gotham City, on sort of the origins and mythos of the character, and they're all pretty different.
Man, just how I discovered Batman was kind of like how I discovered like Universal Monsters. It's just that much part of our culture that it felt like like as soon as we came on this earth, like we knew about these characters. It's they're just that iconic. I watched the '89 movie when I was young, made a big impression on me. Loved the animated series from the '90s with Kevin Conroy, who I actually met, by the way, at one of my local Comic Cons, which was awesome. Just like being this present, I'm like, oh my god, you're Batman. You're the freaking voice of Batman. And then of course the Dark Knight trilogy is amazing. And then just over the years, I've been slowly kind of delving into like the comic world. And it's really fascinating because there's so many different takes on the character.
And so, back on your point earlier, they were characters we grew up with. Our superheroes that we have today are kind of evolutions of Odysseus and Gilgamesh,
Yeah, Greek
Beowulf,
gods.
So now we have created these superhero characters, and it kind of fulfills that role for us. And so Batman, I think, is kind of unique among these modern gods, if you will, because he doesn't have the powers, doesn't necessarily. I mean, his technology is advanced in a way, but when you compare him to like his Marvel contemporary, which would be, I think, Iron Man, probably most closely, he just isn't anywhere near that. But what we see really is we have someone who's got this really strong detective background and is tormented by his own demons and I think uses them as part of his persona in fighting them.
Yeah, he's definitely a mix between like Iron Man and Daredevil. Because Daredevil's very like street level. Yeah, but just real quick before we get into like more of the deep dive, what were your overall thoughts about Matt Reeves, the Batman?
I think Matt Reeves accomplished what he set out to do. I think that diehards of the comic series, especially the more recent darker comics, will appreciate. I think if you're looking for like a really fun modern superhero movie a la Marvel, I don't think you're going to enjoy it a whole lot. It's when they say it's dark and gritty, that is very serious. I would say overall, I think the movie, and this is something I think almost every person who's reviewed it has said, I think the movie was too long, easily half an hour. I think I would have shot for closer to 2 hour runtime and gone for like a leaner and quicker pace.
I thought it was really good. He said that it was going to be like a dark and gritty crime movie, Chinatown, French Connections, David Fincher 7, Zodiac, with a little bit of Long Halloween, going back to the comics with Year One, a little bit of Court of Owls in there, a little bit. Just a little sprinkle in there, a little hint, and then Ego with a big influence, which was my favorite Batman story of all time. I just read that and I was just like blown away about. Even though it did meet my expectations right here, I kind of wanted it a little higher. Like I expected a little more. I want the action to be a little better than it was. But of course, I've seen the trailer so many times, so I kind of knew him beat for beat. Let's go for the first talking point. The intro was a great way to show how messed up the Riddler was. When they showed the title sequence at the beginning with the DC Warner Brothers logo and then the Batman title screen, and they started playing Ave Maria, I'm like, wait. Did I walk into the right movie? Is this a Batman movie right here? Like I did not expect like classical music to be played in a Batman movie. I thought like this was like Joker. When at the POV, like that was so cool. Yeah. That was very Chinatown.
You almost get the feeling like he's about to do something very disgusting with the body, Well, I was pretty glad when they cut away.
Well, the thing is, what was cool about it was like right before he was on screen, it was perfect like world building. First, you had the mayor, watching himself on TV. This other mayor, who's trying to, get it elected. You hear about the Maroney drug bust. And you see, the newspaper article, like, framed up in the background. Again, going back to Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, like, it's that kind of setup, like that kind of world building. And then the mayor walks away off screen, the TV flashes, and there's Riddler. And as soon as he went on screen, like, it took my breath away. I'm like, oh my God, that is freaking like scary.
I don't think he was going for, the classic Riddler, who's this very bright kind of put together and calculated figure. Here we have Riddler, not that he isn't bright, but this Riddler is a lot more unhinged,
right.
Which I think kind of calls back to, The Dark Knight and that Joker. But I would say amped up even more. Whereas the Joker, he's like, do I look like a man with a plan? Obviously, the Joker has a plan.
Yeah.
And this Riddler does too. I think that Joker, he just, as the movie says, just wants to see the world burn. In this case, the Riddler does very much have a clear agenda, and he is seeing the world one way, and he believes that he has found that in Batman. And as we'll learn later on, that's not the case.
The thing that makes Riddler even scarier than Joker was Joker, when he killed people on screen, it was always in front of people. That makes it a little less scary to me. When Riddler kills people, it's isolated, like nobody else is with them, and that's so scary. I'm thinking to myself, oh my god, this dude's gonna be in my house tonight when I come home. That's how much it scared me.
And I think that's an interesting take on it, because it could kind of go either way, right? So obviously that Joker, he is not inhibited by being seen,
Right.
Whereas this Riddler kind of operates more in the shadows, and it's preying, I think, more on our fear of that kind of the lone stalker, lone gunman, lone lunatic,
Right.
whatever trope, as opposed to somebody's just out and openly committing mayhem. So I think they're both terrifying in their own way. I don't think that the Dark Knight's Joker was intended to necessarily be outright horrifying, and I think this Riddler very much was intended to be that.
Yeah, it felt like Riddler was more grounded in reality. Like that could happen.
I mean, I guess they might say he's a serial killer, and that's not really what I see. I mean, really, he goes after the mayor, Bruce Wayne,
the police commissioner
Falcone.
at the time.
So that's 4 people that he goes after. He kills 3. Really, it's preying, I think, more on this sort of QAnon that we have going on. So and I know just a few days ago they arrested a couple guys in DC.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, and so I think really what we're seeing more is this preying on sort of the keyboard warrior that gets delusions of grandeur and starts to actually implement a master plan to expose all the corruption and evil in the world. And so in this case, very much our Riddler sees himself as a savior.
Bruce Wayne's opening monologue was awesome. That's straight out of like any comic. Loved his insight on his view on how crappy Gotham is, and he just doesn't feel like he's doing enough.
It kind of sets up the mindset for Bruce Wayne, and I don't think it's immediately apparent, but I think this Bruce Wayne is clearly depressed and is not addressing it. And I think that comes out later when we see Robert Pattinson just as Bruce Wayne, which we don't get to see a lot of regular Bruce Wayne in this movie.
I kind of like that. It focused on Batman specifically, which we don't really do that in a lot of the other movies.
But I think, I mean, clearly this guy, I mean, he's talking about, the city. I can't be everywhere at once. The city is just getting worse. So he is taking, I think, what's going on in Gotham a little bit upon himself.
Right.
And is perhaps even shouldering some of the blame.
Someone has like hold the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Exactly. I think he's kind of putting this all on himself. What's interesting though is that instead of going after maybe high-level targets, so he's not really focused on Falcone in the beginning. He's not focused on people I think that might be high-level targets. He's focusing, on a group of thugs that are just kind of running around causing some mischief. Yeah.
There's several criminals like committing crime, and going back to I can't be everywhere at once.
Exactly.
You had that one guy in the weird Halloween mask robbing the convenience store, and then when he gets out, he sees the bat signal, and that's when you have Mr. Wayne talking about like the shadows, and people think I'm hiding the shadows, but I am the shadows. And it's that like that slow painting, that alleyway of that guy in the Halloween mask, like looking and like, wait, is he gonna come out of the shadow? Oh no, that was a cool way to do it.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't come out of that shadow in that moment. Criminal runs away because he's scared shitless that Batman's gonna like mess me up pretty bad. And then gets hit by a car, which is probably a better alternative at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that leads into like the first like action scene. Where those guys in the makeup are beating up the guy that they saw on the subway, and then you hear Batman slowly, like with the foot stomp. I I thought that was so cool. Like you should have seen me in the theater. Like I was smiling like ear to ear. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Well, and
That's what I
that
like
was
about this Batman is because he's not stealthy. He just walks into a room. So he's trying to figure things out. That is so cool. I like that so much.
Yeah, his intimidation was based a lot more on sort of his own mythology. So instead of just, kind of charging in or dropping in out of nowhere, this Batman just walks into and it kind of takes everyone off guard in a really interesting way because they're not, I think, expecting that,
Right.
just this really slow kind of purposeful walk. And it's like, what the hell is going on? And
Yeah.
then obviously we see, he just kind of loses it on the one guy and everyone, I think, he just
Vengeance.
it's one of those things where I think
When I saw that
Batman,
part in the first
yeah,
trailer, like I lost my
yeah,
fucking mind. I'm like, ah! Get him,
yeah. It's like
Batman!
he says it doesn't kill anybody, but I guarantee you that guy's drinking through a straw. you know, I think Christian Bale, I think, was a little bit more convincing as being able to take on multiple people at once.
Right.
But that also might have been due to the way the movies were shot. So if you look at the Batman, I think we get some more continuous shots, a little bit longer cuts, versus if you go back and watch Batman Begins, the cuts are super, super quick.
Right.
So one thing that's going to mask, and this is common, I think, in almost any movie where you have one guy take on multiple dudes, is you've got people waiting in the background to take the shot at our hero, which you definitely catch a little bit here. I wouldn't say it was a lot. It's something I tend to look for a lot whenever I watch any sort of movies. I would say actually it wasn't too bad here. This really isn't, I don't think, an action movie. Yes, it's punctuated by notes of it, but this is really more of a mystery.
It's gonna be hard to beat the warehouse scene from B versus S because that was awesome.
Yeah.
There was a key moment right after this fight where the guy like was getting mugged. Was like, "Don't hurt me."
Yeah.
That's key. I think that's key to what's going to lead into the sequel.
And I think we get a little bit of that in, the 1989 Batman, where people are like, "Oh, are you going to hurt me?" It's like, "No, I'm not here to hurt you." But we don't really get those reassurances from this Batman. He is never really a calming presence. Like people, he doesn't show up and anyone feels safe. I think again that's probably part of Matt Reeves' vision. And I think if you look just kind of at the character overall, this is someone who's depressed. He's a little bit unhinged.
And that leads us to the first investigation scene. And it was this very scene that sold me on Robert Pattinson as Batman because he just walked into the room, and it's the way he would walk and the way he composed himself. He just demanded presence. Dude looked freaking terrifying. The way he would turn his head and like look at the police officers. Oh man, I can't even describe it. You have to watch it again to like really get what I'm talking about. Like he was so scary.
And that's, I think, one thing. If you look at his costume, especially this movie versus any of the other Batman movies, this is not a refined costume. This more or less looks like something that anyone could put together given enough time. Obviously it's highly bulletproof, maybe almost to the point of being I think later on a little silly, but what we do have here is they, I know, designed this costume to have more mobility so that Robert Pattinson could move around and perform his action scenes in ways that previous Batmans have not been able to.
The costume was definitely very Arkham Knight-ish, that it was like more like kind of like an armor than like fabric, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Bouncing off that investigation scene, I love Batman's and Gordon's chemistry. I think there's more like the funnier parts of the movie. Right there with Penguin. Especially love the thumb drive scene when they find the thumb drive in the car. It was, and there was an actual thumb. It was like the mayor's thumb attached to it.
Oh, that was
so
that was a laugh.
Yeah, and then they're trying to scan the thing on the computer afterwards, and Gordon was like, "So how do we scan this?" And then Batman brings the thumb drive with the thumb on it, and he's like, "Oh, this guy's hilarious." I'm still mixed between Jeffrey White and Gary Oldman as my favorite Gordon, because Gary Oldman was more broken, but I like the chemistry more, or like that kind of like buddy cop thing, like we've seen in Seven with Jeffrey White more. So it's a little bit of a mix.
I think for me, it was difficult to kind of bring Jeffrey White in as Gordon. And really, I think a lot of it had to do, so going to something we touched on earlier, the Batman growl. We talked about in Gotham, kind of all the characters in Gotham growl unnecessarily. Like Penguin, like I don't know, Penguin did as much, like the Joker just, and that's kind of what we get a little bit with this Jim Gordon. The problem was he also whispers while he's doing it, which for me made him really hard to understand. It's like, he's supposed to be, the future police commissioner, and it's like he's always quiet, like kind of whispering, but at the same time trying to be intimidating. For me, that was kind of a miss. Like I would have preferred that he had had a little bit more of a commanding voice.
Yeah.
I guess.
But maybe we'll get that in the sequel, maybe. The one thing I did like about the investigation scene when that one cop calls Batman a freak, and then later in the funeral scene when he sees Mr. Wayne, he's like, "Hey, Mr. Wayne!"
Yeah,
it was so funny. What was interesting about it, they showed that they had that clip out. It leaked before it basically came out, and they showed that scene when the guy goes, "Hey, Mr. Wayne." Didn't think it was funny. It was out of context. It's hilarious. You know it in context. Yeah. So I guess we can't go too far in this video without talking about the completely unrecognizable Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot himself, the Penguin. Every scene he was in.
He did. I think he was by far the best part of the movie.
I wouldn't say the best part, but he was definitely my favorite character.
For me, I think for me it would be because like anytime he was in a scene, he brought charisma and levity, and it was kind of a break from the dark and grittiness of it. Like even though like a lot of the situations he's in are not necessarily pleasant, I think Colin Farrell and his Penguin just I think brought some extra life into the movie.
Yeah, he was
and a little bit of
comic relief for the whole movie.
Yeah,
like almost every word he said was funny, was hilarious.
I mean, he just absolutely nailed the performance. He managed to be fun and entertaining without also being silly, which I think he really struck a good balance in there. And obviously the movie sets him up to kind of succeed Falcone in the end.
My favorite Penguin line was right after the car chase when they were interrogating him about the El Rato or whatever, which is Batman's name. And he was like making fun of like the pronunciation, and he's like, "Well, you two are the world great detectives, and you came in and speak the Espanol." It was so funny.
That one,
he plays it like an Italian gangster, like a Joe Pesci type. That was just so funny.
That one got me a little because I mean, if as you can see behind me, I've got the New Mexican flag. I'm proudly from New Mexico. My family has been here. We were among the first group of Spanish settlers. Cool. And that was kind of a moment where I kicked myself a little bit. I'm like, oh man, I did not catch that at all.
That was so funny.
And that was actually one thing. It was actually kind of nice to have a moment where Bruce Wayne didn't like instantly know what was happening. I think that was like, I thought that was like the best like Riddler clue, because it basically stood for URL. Yeah.
So you exactly. Have to type the URL, then Rata or whatever it was.
Rata Alata, I think was the term, and that was. But I think kind of one of the things my friend pointed out, and I kind of agreed with. Batman would kind of go into the room, he has a situation, and he immediately knew all the rules. He kind of knew everything right away, and I think I would have liked to have a few more situations like that one with the Penguin where he doesn't get it immediately. He's stumped. And so that was kind of nice, and it brought I think a moment of comic relief and inspiration from a very unlikely source in the Penguins, like, oh, here's what I'm supposed to do. And that was, I think it was a really great moment and choice for the film.
So that kind of going back to the first investigation scene and why it sold me on Patterson is you can just see through his eyes and through his head movement, he was just the cogs were turning the whole time. And he wasn't even paying attention to the cops. The cops were just kind of making fun of them. And then you had the commissioner, Pete, which I actually thought was Loeb from the Year One comic, but they said his last name and it wasn't Loeb, which kind of sucks. But anyways, I thought the guy that played Pete was the commissioner. Pete was really good, like this classic asshole, like higher up in the police, squad or whatever. Speaking of the car chase, it was an awesome car chase. Like probably the second best Batmobile car chase next to the Dark Knight.
Probably, definitely the most grounded of any Batmobile we've seen.
Not my favorite though. Like more.
It's hard to beat the Keaton Batman.
It looks like a bat too. That's what I liked about it.
And that was, the Keaton Batman. Someone I was watching something pointed this out. That was really the only modern Batman where kind of everything he did was bat themed. You look, he's got little bat emblems on the hub of his car.
Right.
He's got the bat wing. Just everything. He's got the batarang that actually looks like a bat. Everything is bats.
Right.
And so Tim Burton really had a lot of fun with that film, obviously. And obviously,
I want to point out something real quick. Speaking of the bat thing, I like the part when he's going to the Bat Cave, like on his bike at the very beginning, and they play "Something in the Way" by Nirvana. And when he gets to the cave, when he says, "The animals I've caught have all become my friends," as soon as that line comes up, if you notice, a bunch of bats fly everywhere.
Oh,
that was such a cool detail. I caught that the first time I saw that. I'm like, oh, that was really cool. I was kind of geeking out a little bit.
Absolutely something I did not catch. For me, I thought it was a really odd song choice. It almost took me a little bit out of the film. But now that you've pointed that out, it probably makes a little bit more sense why they've brought it in, because they played again later in the film.
Yeah, for the Pink Gotham as like a really shitty place.
And probably that was something, if I'd been paying more attention to the lyrics, I would have gotten a better feel as to why.
That's a good song too. So going back to the car chase, I like how it's very gritty, almost kind of like the French Connection car chase, like all point of view, a lot of close shots. And then Joker gets in that on a rack, and he's like, oh no, he thinks he gets Batman, and he's like, I got you. You saying it, psycho freak?
Yeah.
And then Batman jumps from behind him like, oh, no, he didn't. And then he crashes Penguin, and then he just slowly walks up to him. And you can see the fear in Penguin's eyes. And then I guess we can get to the big reveal of the movie. He's basically led into Arkham's orphanage. And then I can't remember how he gets to where he finds out about his parents. But basically, Thomas Wayne was trying to run for mayor, and then the reporter was trying to get some dirt on him.
Yeah.
And his family, as you do when it comes to election years. Unfortunately, basically Martha was part of the Arkham family, and there's a history there. There was a lot of cover up and a lot of abuse within the asylum. And then I guess he was in and out of the asylum, like he's a little coop from the head. Thomas didn't like this very much. He hired Carmine Falcone to kill her, basically. And I want to talk about Carmine Falcone real quick. I didn't like originally the casting choice of John Turturro. He did excellent in the movie. Basically hired him to kill the reporter. And then you kind of learned that Sal Maroni didn't really like that. I thought he was getting too good with the Wayne. So it was implied that he killed his parents, but it wasn't confirmed necessarily.
That was, I think, an area I know. So from what I remember, and I've done some reading to prepare for this. So basically, that first encounter.
Maroni's a rival crime.
I mean, that was basically who Falcone took over for. So when Batman first encounters Falcone, and Catwoman's wants to kill him. That's I think that was when I think it was is it Falcone or Falcone? I had a friend named Falcone. I think it's
both.
Yeah, it goes either way depending on
who's
like, making the film.
like Ra's al Ghul and Ra's al Ghul. Like traditionally it's Ra's al Ghul, but in Batman Begins it's Ra's al Ghul for whatever freaking reason.
I think that came directly from Falcone. He's like, oh, that's what happened. I could be wrong on that. But I do know. I think Alfred kind of clears it up a little bit. And just a quick sidebar.
That scene, that was so heartwarming because
that was actually I stepped out during that scene.
Okay, I stepped out during the right before the big reveal about the parents when he was talking on the roof with Catwoman. I'm like, oh wait, this is a good place to go pee. And then like apparently she reveals that she's Falcone's daughter with like.
And so that was my understanding. Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't that Thomas Wayne hired Falcone to kill the reporter. He wanted the reporter to be scared a little bit. I think that was what Alfred cleared up, and I missed that part. The intent was, he wants, basically this mob boss to scare this reporter from writing the article, and the guy basically just kind of goes off.
Falcone said to Bruce when he confronts him, he said, "Your father told me to put the fear of God in him," and then I realized the fear of God wouldn't have been enough.
Yeah, exactly, and so. He basically just takes it on himself to kill this reporter, which Thomas Wayne does not like. And so when it becomes apparent that Thomas Wayne's going to make an issue out of this, I think he said, he was going to come forward, or basically he was going to bring this all to light. And so that was, I think it was implied that's why the Waynes were.
Yeah, one thing I didn't catch until I started watching reviews for this movie was I don't know if you ever watched the Long Halloween anime movie that just came out.
I don't think so.
It
just came out?
Yeah, it came out like last year.
Okay, I don't think I've seen it then.
Yeah, so there's a moment in there because in the Batman mythology, Thomas Wayne is a doctor. And they even said that in Batman Begins. There's a part where Falcone gets injured, and Thomas Wayne helps them. That's in Long Halloween. They brought that Falcone calls that the Bruce during the funeral scene earlier in the movie, which I thought was really cool.
I think it kind of mirrors how in Batman Begins, when Batman doesn't kill Deckard. If Bruce had let Ra's al Ghul die during the explosion, obviously he wouldn't have come back to wipe out Gotham later with his microwave emitter. And it's kind of the same thing here. If Thomas Wayne hadn't saved Falcone wouldn't have ultimately had Thomas Wayne killed. This is another thing where they mirror Bruce Wayne through his villains, just like this Riddler is, very tormented and kind of unhinged, just like our Batman is. Okay, so it's the same kind of thing with Bruce Wayne and Falcone, where we've got this kind of reclusive Bruce Wayne who isn't interacting as the the Gotham socialite, the philanthropist that he's always been, and so much the same way we have this Falcone who's always been this kind of out and open character. He's like, no one can touch me, I'll do whatever I want. In this film, he really is operating from the shadows. So it's really kind of another interesting way to see how they've mirrored Batman and Bruce Wayne through the villains of the film.
I guess we can talk about Catwoman right now. I thought Zoe Kravitz was really good. I thought it was an interesting casting choice. I'm still kind of mixed between her and Michelle Pfeiffer. I think Michelle Pfeiffer got into the role more, but it's a different kind of tone.
Kind of like a little bit of camp in the Batman movies, which was definitely missing from this. So for this Selena Kyle, we get someone, who you could believe would be a real person. I think for me, actually, the real miss there was the chemistry between Selena Kyle and Batman. Because I'm not sure, do they ever reveal that?
I thought they had perfect chemistry.
I think they bantered well off each other. But for me, when she goes to kiss him and all of a sudden, it's like a romantic interest, for me, I didn't feel like they had been building chemistry in that direction. And so I felt like that interaction kind of came out of nowhere. Like the partnership, I felt like they obviously have a mutual interest in, trying to find her friend, trying to bring down the mob, doing these things. So that I felt played very naturally into each other, kind of how they bickered about how they're going about things, how they ultimately work together. I did not find that romantic entanglement, it felt kind of rushed and almost out of place in my opinion.
Okay, I'm gonna have to pay attention to that because I thought they had really good chemistry, like romantically. But I liked how they had diversity in this movie by casting, black people or black actors as Catwoman and Jeffrey Wright, just based off the fact that like they're good, they fit. Not because they were, just to make it diverse. They got good people.
And Selena Kyle's been portrayed, black, I think, in several of her animated and I think the first actress to play Selena Kyle live, was black.
Oh, you're talking about Eartha Kitt?
Yeah.
No, it's actually Julie Neymar in the first couple of seasons. Then Lee Mayweather in the Batman, the movie with Adam West, and then it was Eartha Kitt.
So I mean, it's not necessarily a new thing that Catwoman is black, but I think she worked very well in the role. She was believable.
But kind of looked like her. Like Zoe Kravitz looked like her from year one. It was funny. Zoe Kravitz actually voiced Catwoman in the Lego Batman movie.
Did she?
Yeah, for real.
Okay.
Yeah, we watched a little bit of it on last night. Still a really funny movie. I love Lego Batman.
Yeah, I think Will Arnett actually is completely underrated as Batman. So she spoke about in an interview, she had gone out for The Dark Knight Rises. I don't think she was actually trying to get the role of Selena Kyle. I think she was trying to get a minor role. Right. But basically, whoever was doing casting that day told her, we're not going for an urban look. For me, I am. I look pretty white, but I'm Hispanic, and that's something I know where I don't really feel represented in today's media. I don't see a lot of Spanish or Hispanic people in leading roles or movies about them. So like that's something, where I do understand the push for diversity, for empowering women, for empowering minorities, because when you do get to see yourself on screen, it really does make a difference.
I think that's why Black Panther was such a big hit, because we had Blade, a black superhero, but that didn't really celebrate the African culture like Black Panther did. It really delved into like the tradition and the culture and all that stuff.
Exactly, and it gave, I think, black audience someone they could really cheer for. And then I think this might actually be a good time to segue into the Riddler and his origins. The Riddler and Bruce Wayne, this is another one of those parallels. Riddler and Bruce Wayne are both orphans, but Bruce Wayne had the benefit of being a rich kid, and that's, I think, one of the major plot points of this movie. And it's definitely was interesting because the Riddler thinks that him and Batman are the same, and he's trying to team up with Batman the whole time. Yeah, and that's the thing. He tries to kill Bruce Wayne because in his mind, Bruce Wayne is the symbol of rich white entitlement. Because he didn't get a pity party. No one was saying poor Ed. Everyone's like poor Bruce, and that is a theme that is in the movie. I think it's a little more subtle, but it is in there. And that is the thing. Bruce basically he's the Prince of Gotham. That's kind of always been his thing. That was really one of the things he's rallying against is, that entitlement. And that was another thing that I think Selena does actually point out at one point. It's like, I can tell that you're from money because of your simplified worldview. Everyone is good or evil. And as someone else pointed out, it's basically either you're super corrupt or you're super innocent is the way that Bruce Wayne is looking at this world. And it's not until he meets Selena Kyle, who kind of is walking on both sides of this, where she is very much trying to help her friend, but at the same time, she's out there, robbing people, selling drugs, these kinds of things. And so it introduces a bit of gray into this black and white world that Bruce Wayne has been living in. And I think that opens up some really interesting possibilities where he'll be able to be a champion for Gotham. And I think that's something, social contest, we're exploring. What does it mean when we talk about social justice? What's it mean to raise people up? They may have kind of opened that door into how Bruce Wayne and Batman could become more of a symbol for change, not just by beating up bad guys, but by really tackling the issues that create them in the first place.
I think Paul Dano really showed his acting chops in the diner scene when he basically turns himself in or gives himself up, and he's like, I just want a slice of pie. And then like they see that he had two IDs. He's like, which one's the real one? He's like, I don't know. Tell me. And then he's in the prison. He's in Arkham Asylum, and he sees Batman, and he just did that smile. I'm like, oh my god, that is creepy. And then his whole monologue when he talks about like the orphans, and then like how rats would like basically eat them, and then a baby would die every winter.
Obviously, he gives himself up to the police. Now, is that because he believes he belongs in prison? Or is it because he knows the prison's going to offer him safety from the bombs he's setting up? I never really got the sense that he felt that he was a necessary evil to enact change. I think he just thought of himself as another Batman figure, as this masked vigilante who is removing the grime from Gotham. Yeah. So that was... I never really got that sense that he recognized his own evilness.
Well, and that's kind of like the narcissistic side of the character. Yeah. I didn't realize, because I knew he was going to be sadistic even before going into the movie, just based off what people were saying in the trailer and all that. I didn't realize how sadistic he could be in the comics, because there's a comic storyline, 3 parts, called Dark Knight, Dark City. Came out in the early 90s. And there was this part where he kidnaps a bunch of like babies, and he like lodges like a item inside one of the baby's throat, which is really disturbing. And then Batman has to like cut the baby's throat open to get it out. I'm like, wow,
that's
like, I didn't know he was like that level of like sadistic. I knew he was a narcissist, but that's just messed up. The baby ended up being fine, by the way, in the comic.
Huh?
The baby in that comic storyline, he ended up being okay.
Okay. Oh, good. And definitely this is not, we touched on this, I think, at the beginning, but this is not the Riddler we've seen in the past. This is not the Riddler from Gotham. This is not. He was
still kind of a narcissist too, which I loved.
But he was very different though, because Edward Nygma from Gotham was this kind of intelligent loner, but we have seen a lot more of these highly aggressive, and let's just call it, white men that kind of live in their own little bubble on the deep web. And they, I think it was on 8chan, especially, where a lot of this was kind of coming out of. And I think society as a whole is kind of guilty of, putting itself in the bubbles, but especially, these are the people, and this is what Riddler is playing off of, is this fear of these guys that just isolate themselves, and they start to develop this one worldview, and then they just kind of focus in and don't see anything else, and then they aggressively pursue tackling whatever the issue is they determined in a violent way. Right. And I think that's something that we see a lot right now in society. And it's not just like a fear that's coming out of nowhere, like it is happening. They do all these crazy things, and that's a lot of what we're playing off of. And we really see that in the finale of the movie, when all these Riddler acolytes kind of come out dressed the same way as him.
So there's a little bit of debate online about this movie when Riddler says Bruce Wayne over and over again. That that he thinks that, because some people think that he knows he's Bruce Wayne, and some people don't think. And I was very much on the middle.
It was very clear he did not know Bruce Wayne was Batman, because he tried to kill Bruce Wayne. So he's talking about Bruce, and maybe I've got my timeline mixed up here on when that occurs. But when he does, and that might be later in the movie at the point that I'm thinking about now that I'm seeing in my head. But when Riddler first meets Batman, it is very clear he does not know Batman is Bruce Wayne. And the reason I say that is because he tries to kill Bruce Wayne. And that's one thing he admits, like, oh, the only one I didn't kill was Bruce Wayne. I killed everyone else. Mm-hmm. And you helped me do it. Like, he's like, we're one and the same. We're the same person. You're helping me execute my vision. And so to me, that was the indicator that he did not know that Bruce Wayne was Batman. And actually, for me, it was actually almost a little disappointing because obviously up to this point, he's planned everything out very carefully. He's shown that he is intelligent and capable, and he just completely missed that. Because I don't think that he would have taunted Batman directly by saying, not in the way, like, he might taunt Batman, but I don't think he would have said, oh, I tried to kill Bruce Wayne but failed, but we're partners, we're the same guy. I don't think he would have done that if he had realized Batman was Bruce Wayne. I think he might have mentioned, like, I tried to get you, but you got lucky, your butler picked it up, or something like that. Riddler thinks he knows who Batman is because he sees what he's doing on TV or hears about it secondhand, but he hasn't really he has not interacted with him up until they are, in the prison together. And that's like when he kind of gets this like hard jolt of reality, like, what do you mean we're not the same? I think Riddler believed he understood the Batman, but he didn't really have anything to base it off of. And that was, I think, one thing where Selena Kyle really did, because she interacted with him enough to realize, like, she didn't figure out his identity right away. And I don't know if that got revealed later, but she could tell that he came from privilege because of his worldview. And that was, I think probably for the Riddler, he felt that this Batman came from a lower class or less privilege, as opposed to Bruce Wayne, probably more than anyone else, the symbol of just how shitty his own life was.
Right.
Because Bruce Wayne loses his parents and everyone's so worried about him. He lives in the lap of luxury still. He still has every advantage in the world, versus this Riddler loses his parents, and he's got the rat's gnawing on his fingers, the baby's dying, and just all this trauma that he has to come up with because he does not receive that. So that's my counter argument. Now, does he figure it out by the end of the film?
Maybe. Maybe the look on Batman's face when he keeps seeing Bruce Wayne, like, oh shit, he's onto me.
And that's, I remember that was like, and that you kind of get that feeling the whole movie. They're definitely hinting that the Riddler knows who Batman is, and that's the thing, when Alfred gets that letter, and you're like, oh shit, like he's got this figured out. But for me, like I said, when they actually interacted face to face, to me, it indicated that the Riddler did not know that Bruce Wayne was Batman.
Yeah, and then also you have the whole thing where, he kind of liked Batman. He liked his mentality, but then he hates Bruce Wayne. So
yeah,
and like, that's like, it could go either way. But how cool would it be if in the sequel? So we're off the get go. He did not know. He did not know Bruce Wayne was, or Batman with Bruce Wayne, right? And then he figures it out during that take, by that look that Batman was giving when he kept saying his name over and over again. So in the sequel, he's pissed off now because, like, oh shit, my enemy is the person that I like the most, Batman. So like,
yeah, and they're definitely gonna be enemies. And that was actually one thing. Getting towards the ending, I couldn't quite understand is, like, he is super upset that Batman saves like 15 people. I think by all accounts, if you look at his plan to break down the seawall and destroy the city, I think he did a pretty good job. He did not kill the mayor. I would, if that was his ultimate goal, I mean, maybe I guess he failed in that respect, that the new mayor doesn't die, that his lackeys don't manage to kill her. But if we're just looking at the execution of his plan to bring down the seawall and create all this chaos and kind of, I think, wash away the filth of Gotham, I think it was probably what that's about. It seems like he pretty much accomplished his goal. So I was a little bit confused. Like, he's so upset at the end, but and that was just kind of my take.
That Batman's gonna be a beacon of hope, maybe.
And maybe that is it. You're back to the earlier part. I think he was expecting Batman to kind of fall in line with his plan. He was hoping for that, and it does not happen. So I think maybe in a way, and so now let's tie it into the Joker movie, where and I forget the character's name, but Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, Huh? Yeah,
Arthur,
Arthur
yeah,
Fleck.
Arthur Fleck.
Where for a while he believes Bruce Wayne is his brother,
Mhm.
you know, and so a big chunk of the movie is based around that. Um, and then when he finds out he's not, he kind of goes off the end. And so I think we see that a little bit here in this Riddler. The Riddler believes that this Batman, maybe not biologically a brother, but a kindred spirit, a brother in arms type of thing. And then that illusion is shattered when he actively works against the plan to assassinate the mayor,
Right.
the new mayor.
Interesting. What did you feel about the Joker cameo at the very end? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Obviously they are setting a bit of a team up between the Riddler and the Joker.
Right.
So I think they're going to kind of play off each other's madness. So outside of that, and I think some people will complain because the Joker happens. I mean, I think every Batman faces a Joker. So there is that complaint that the Joker gets done too much. But heroes are defined on their villains, and the Joker is the primary foil to the Batman, because whereas Batman is seeking to instill justice and order and righteousness and all these ideals, Joker is always the antithesis of that.
Right.
He is not trying to he's not trying to institute some grand vision. He's not trying to implement order. He is just the embodiment of chaos, which is everything Batman stands against.
My thoughts on the Riddler's cameo or the Joker cameo, I liked it because I was watching a video with Matt Reeves, and he was saying that well, people think because we put the Joker in this movie that he's going to be in the sequel. They thought, they thought this, that was going to happen, but that's not necessarily true. We're just confirming that he's in the world. Maybe he'll, we're just kind of setting him up, so he might not be in the next one, or in the next one.
And it's possible. I think the next one, my understanding is it's supposed to focus around the Court of Owls.
We're gonna see that for the third one, and
it'll be interesting to see where it goes either way.
They kind of set it up for Huss for the next one.
For what?
There's a villain called Huss. He was Bruce Wayne's old friend named Thomas Elliot. He became his surgeon. His face got kind of messed up, or he got his face surgically to look like Bruce Wayne. I don't remember why he did that. It's been a minute before I read that, but he would have been pretty cool. And the reporter that got the dirt on the Waynes was named Elliot. So, yeah, I guess we could talk about the sequel. What are you expecting from the sequel? Do you have any theories for the next one?
I guess that just based on what I've read, it sounds like the Court of Owls might happen. Whether or not Riddler and Joker will play a significant role in this, it's hard to say. I do think we are going to see a lot of growth on the part of Batman and Bruce Wayne. I personally would like to see more Bruce Wayne.
I think he's going to be more charming, like Bale in the next one. He's going to put on that mask a lot more.
Yeah, the mask of Bruce Wayne, and that was so relating to the ending of Batman Begins. They talk about Batman is not your mask. Bruce Wayne is. This is who you really are. I think that movie does kind of emphasize this. If we're talking about character progression, and any good film is going to progress their characters, because when they just stay static, there's no growth, and that's not interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I think they're going to do. I think they made it pretty self-evident if you know the background like I do. I think Huss is going to come in. I think Joker's going to be in there a little bit. I think they're going to try to push maybe Court of Owls, but I think they're going to save it to the third movie, since it's such a significant.
I think we're going to see a lot more Penguin though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
His role in the world of Gotham's crime will be expanded. So how much they involve him, it's hard to say. Now, if I'm an executive and I am paying attention to the reviews on this film, and I want to make tons and tons of money off of it, I'm going to be looking at what people are saying. Even people that don't like the movie, I have not heard anyone say anything bad about Colin Farrell as the Penguin. I think far and away he is the most easily accessible and well-liked part of the film as a whole by all audiences. If I'm in charge of things, and I want people to come and see this movie, I'm going to market heavily on Colin Farrell's involvement. Like I said, and he absolutely stole every scene he was in.
Oh yeah. Here's I think what they're gonna do at the beginning of the next one. There's gonna be a prologue that sets up the rest of the movie, right? They kind of set up like whatever villain it may, they're going to decide to have in there. I think the next scene, I think Batman is going to come up against the Mad Hatter to kind of indicate, yeah, he's still trying to fight. He's trying to fight crime. He's doing it in a different way than he did in this movie. He's trying to be more of a humanitarian. And then plus you get to see Mad Hatter, which is one of my favorite villains. I loved him in the animated series.
If I'm Matt Reeves, I'm not going to repeat the Riddler in the same way. I think having someone so creepy in this, I think doing the same thing twice isn't necessarily what we want to do.
Right, I don't think Matt has to be the main villain. I think he's just going to be in it.
Well, so, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I would say that primary antagonist, and in this film, we really have, we've got the Riddler and we've got Falcone, and Cobblepot's in there, but he's not really the focus of what Batman's trying to do. Selena Kyle, obviously, she'll kind of, she plays both sides of it. But really, we're focused on Falcone and we're focused on Riddler. So I think whoever our villain is in the next one is probably going to exhibit some different qualities that make him a villain while still trying to keep him grounded in our current societal fears.
I think you can do that with Huss, but you can go several different directions. I think Matt Reeves thought about Mr. Freeze, which might be kind of interesting. I had a theory with him how he make him grounded in this universe is some sort of like freeze injection or some sort of pill that he forces on people, and it automatically just freezes the heart, and like they're just dead. That might be kind of interesting.
Well, and that's if I'm thinking of, obviously the counter to Mr. Freeze is Firefly.
Right. Which is gonna be in the Batgirl movie played by Brendan Fraser, which is cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that might be, I think Firefly would maybe fit a little bit more grounded into a Matt Reeves film if he's going for that ultra realism type thing. Right. I don't know how much Firefly really plays into that. I know Mr. Freeze is one of the bigger villains. I think Firefly is
apparently Firefly in the Batgirl comic actually kills Commissioner Gordon's family.
Or really?
Like his wife. I saw that in a video.
Okay.
Batgirl. So that's gonna be interesting.
I mean, I definitely think we're gonna see a bigger focus on tackling the mob element in Gotham. I think in the next one. Here,
there's gonna be that Penguin show. I think it's gonna be like all mob. It's gonna be like Goodfellas, essentially.
Yeah, and that's that wasn't really the focus here. Batman was not trying to take out the mob here. He's really focused on the Riddler. It just so happens that Riddler is focused on the mob.
Right.
And so Batman ends up, tangling with him a lot through the movie. But that's really never his primary focus. I'm thinking that might be kind of where he's turning his attention next time around. And in doing that, that will lead to uncovering the next, the primary villain of the next film. It could be that Victor Zsasz is in that mix.
Honestly, I thought in the first trailer when the DA had the duct tape on his mouth and the bomb on his throat, I initially thought when I first saw that in the first trailer, I thought that was Victor Zsasz. I was like, Victor Zsasz, maybe?
Yeah.
But then it turned out to be the DA. Do you think that DA, played by Peter Skarsgård in this Batman movie, do you think he's going to end up being Two-Face, maybe?
No. So I wouldn't say I have a background in explosives, but I did work for the Navy as an engineer for a while. I did go to New Mexico Tech, which I know, Mythbusters used to film a lot of stuff out there. So whenever they did anything, I would watch it. I personally think the bomb that was around the DA's neck would have killed Robert Pattinson. And that's the thing. People don't realize how dangerous the shockwave is off a bomb. Shrapnel is definitely a key component of it, but the shockwave in and of itself can kill you. And just based on how far back it threw him, You know, especially he's wearing this armor that appears to have at least a good metal component to it based on just how it like deflects bullets. I would say if it was strong enough to send him flying back like it did, it probably would have killed him. So I don't think that DA is alive at all.
Right. I think what they should do, I think they're going to do the exact same thing they did with the Dark Knight with Harvey. I think he's going to come in. I think he's not going to be the DA yet. I think he's going to be elected, or and then of course Bruce is going to campaign hard for him. He's going to help him out. I think you're going to see him get in the accident where he becomes Two-Face, but we're not going to see him become Two-Face until like the next movie after that. Because that's the one thing I did not like about the Dark Knight was I think they should have saved Two-Face for Dark Knight.
Yeah, I think the character was a little bit short-lived.
Well, here's my storyline with Two-Face for Rises. Since Batman is not Batman anymore, I think Two-Face should have been the vigilante, but he's like twisted in that he uses his coin.
Yeah.
And then like Bane is like, no, screw that. Like, I'm just gonna burn down this whole city and start it anew because his connection to the League of Shadows.
Obviously, they have so many villains to draw from. And I'm sure
with this you can literally take in any direction.
Yeah. So I really a lot of my speculation is just based on kind of what I expect we'll see. I think we'll see more of Bruce Wayne instead of Batman. Hopefully we see more of Andy Serkis.
We're going to see a lot of Batman action for sure.
Yeah. I think I'm really hoping we see more Andy Serkis as Alfred. As it stands right now, I don't want to say it was a waste of casting since are going to be another 2 movies. There's 2 more movies planned, but just the amount of time he was in the movie, I think for me was a little bit disappointing, especially since he is such a talented and charismatic actor, and we don't really get to see very much of him
from the scenes that he was in. I felt like,
yeah, and that's unfortunately I missed a big chunk of I think the primary scene he was in.
But here's the thing: if Warner Brothers is smart, they should not limit it to just a trilogy. They're going to expand it out. Because for one, more money for them, and 2, it's a big world of Gotham City and the whole Batman thing. If you just limit it to 3 movies, then then like I said, you're limited. We need more in this world. I feel like one thing I forgot to say was it took the Burton Gothic stylings and Nolan's realistic stylings and put them together.
Okay.
Yeah. We totally forgot about the prison scene when freaking like Batman goes Mike Tyson on
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They showed that on Jimmy Kimmel, that clip when Patterson was on promoting this movie, and I'm like, why the hell did he just knock out Gordon? And then and the movie is funny. It's like that in that scene where the cop recognizes Wayne in the funeral scene. It's funny in the movie in context.
And that was actually one thing I was a little confused on. So talking about how I didn't really like how the dialogue was delivered because it was so low and growly. I kind of had a hard time picking up a little bit on what led up to Batman punching Jim Gordon in the face. It was like, okay, you got to punch me in the face, you can get out of here. I'm like, I think I missed something. Like there was something I did not pick up on.
Well, there's a line that Batman says that I could not figure out at all. So maybe when the Blu-ray comes out, I gotta put it on subtitles, go to that scene and figure out what he said. But anyways, guys, this has been Drew from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. Make sure you like this video, you share it, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond on Facebook, and over and out. Bye.